I'm Aryeh Schwartz, along with my co-host tonight, Rachel Galligan, and welcome to the WNBAinsidr Show. Each week, we cover different topics important to the W, using X's and O's along with key stats to bring honest and critical analysis. Rachel, last night was wild. It was an emotional roller coaster. I think is not too cliche to use after last night. What do you think?
I mean, I wasn't able to sleep. I hope everybody out there has recovered at least a little bit emotionally. Sleep exhaustion wise. I hope everyone's doing all right, because if you're anything like me, oh my goodness, that was insane. Oh my God.
Yeah, we'll start off with Dream versus Washington. A wild game. It's neck and neck throughout, most of the game. At a certain point, Washington did pull away with, I think it was a 7-point lead, which was one of their largest of the game. But then Atlanta just forged its way back. Now, my immediate reaction watching this game was the whole game, Atlanta kind of seemed to have an extra step, have an extra stride. And Washington, the whole game, I was surprised Washington was still in the game.
I would agree with that. I mean, it definitely looked like Atlanta came out defensively like raring to go. You know, that was something that they were going to do. They were going to be ready to go with it. But I mean, this was just a back and forth game. I mean, it was a game with, I think it was 6 lead changes. It was tied 14 times. So this thing was extremely kind of back and forth and close knit the whole time. I think both teams at different periods kind of felt like, maybe that they were going to run away with it that night. And I think, especially with Washington, I mean, we could bring up the elephant in the room. I mean, when Deladon was doing what she was doing, I mean, playing at such a high level, you kind of got the sense that she was going to take over, especially in that fourth quarter, and run away with that thing. And, unfortunately, obviously, as we all know, she goes down with a knee injury and was unable to play. What was it? The final maybe 3 or 4 minutes, or was it longer?
I thought it was 5 or 6. But either way, I mean, I agree or disagree, Rachel. If Deladon doesn't go down, they win.
I agree that they win that game. Yeah, I do.
So, and you have to feel that Atlanta was able to steal a win, which is huge in this series.
Well, I don't think it's as black and white as cut and dry as that. I think what Deladon is doing right now, elevating her game to just that greatness level, that Taurasi-ish level in terms of throwing the team on her back and trying to will them to victory. I'm not saying it's 100% that they would have won if Deladon was in, but because Atlanta was played very well. That they were balanced. They shot the ball well. They shot the ball better. So it's now that I think about it, it's kind of tougher to call. But my initial reaction is more than likely, yeah, Washington would have won that game. So yeah, you do get the sense that Atlanta ran away with one, which is pivotal going down the stretch here. I mean, and it's hard to say. I mean, I know, and they came out with the release earlier today. On Wednesday about Deladon being questionable, and obviously she's been checked out and there was no ligament damage. So I think we would all agree that her being a part of, these next games is crucial, would be an understatement.
Yeah. For me, I really, truly believe that, and I know the stats don't necessarily agree or disagree with this, but Atlanta just wasn't hitting shots early on when they were playing better basketball. And because of that, they put themselves in a tough spot. Also, interesting, we talked about this before, Rachel. If you look at the turnovers, 17 and 11, 17 turnovers for Atlanta. We both kind of predicted the opposite, that it was going to be a little bit more of a check game for Atlanta, that they would kind of get rid of their turnover woes. What does it say to you that DC has been able to force that many turnovers over 2 games, such a large differential?
Well, I think there were some that were kind of unforced, especially kind of in key moments. They would get a stop from Washington and then, kind of turn it over just kind of on their own. I don't know how many of them were actually forced by DC. But yeah, I mean, I think defensively Washington understands how important that end of the floor is. And if they want to have a chance to win this series and get themselves to the finals, it has to be done on the defensive end of the floor. And I think that's where we've seen a Mystics team kind of evolve through that mentality throughout the course of the season where, obviously they're very offensive minded. They want to take a lot of threes. They're going to take pretty quick shots within the possession. But, even in recent interviews, talking to Natasha Cloud and talking to Elena Deladon, just they keep stressing the importance on the defensive end of the floor. And they really, they turned Atlanta over 17 times. I'm actually surprised that the score was what it was, but I think this is going to be a series where it's probably going to go to 5, and I think every game is going to be like this, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, one of the things the thing that stands out to me for why it was such a close game when we have certain stats like that is looking at the 3-point attempts. You have Atlanta going 4 for 10, which isn't amazing, but that's pretty on par for Atlanta, kind of enough to win. You have DC going 6 for 20. Going 6 for 20 when DC has such a dependency on the 3-point ball just says a lot. Also, I'm surprised Chrissy Tolliver missed that last shot. I'm just going to say it.
Well, I'm surprised Chrissy Tolliver missed, that clutch free throw leading up to it.
Yeah.
That was a really crucial moment, and I think you could kind of tell that the Mystics were shaken up a little bit because of the events and things that had happened. It's hard to bounce back kind of from something like that when your MVP kind of goes down. And I'm not saying that's the reason she missed the free throw, but that was a clutch moment when she stepped up to the line and things were as close as they were. You gotta the margin of error, and we're going to talk about that a lot when it comes with both of these games in this series, is so small. Especially down the line like that, you got to play your cards perfect. You got to take care of the basketball. You got to knock down free throws. That's what wins these games, because it comes down to just the tiniest possession here and there that makes a difference. But no, yeah, Tolliver, she created it for herself. I was a little bit uncomfortable even watching it because I felt like, man, like what? How are they going to get this shot off? But she was able to get a good look, and I think that's all you can ask for it on the stretch. Tolliver had to take over in those moments. She had to be the one to take that shot, and it just didn't fall.
I personally, me, I say you do the fake to Tolliver and you feed out to finding Atkins or Cloud wide open for 3. I think if I remember the play correctly, she did have 2 wide open players to her left that for an easy kick out. But you can't go against having Tolliver take that last shot also. So it's not like a horrible thing. All right, we got to move on to this next game because this next, or you want to get a last point? I
want to bring up one more point. Let's just quickly mention the play of Alex Bentley. Was she not?
Oh yeah.
Last night, just for Atlanta, some of the plays she was making. That was she elevated her game as we've seen her do many times before. But I just wanted to make a quick shout out to Alex Bentley. She finished with 22, 8 for 14. From the field, 2 for 3 from the 3-point line. She was great last night. And another key stat with Atlanta, and we talk about them from the rebounding standpoint, they were completely dominant on the boards.
Totally dominant, and the blocks too.
Yeah, and they are such a strong defensive team. But even to go along that, just the rebounding numbers and being able to secure those boards. Jessica Breland finished with 14 rebounds. As a team, they out rebounded the Mystics 44-26. That's a dominating differential there. 11 offensive rebounds. So you're looking at different second chance opportunities. Opportunities to run some clocks. So that was just the job Atlanta did on the clock on the boards last night, and the play from Alex Bentley. That was just I just wanted to make note of that real quick before we moved on.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And I feel like we kind of skimmed over this, but we should talk about it just very briefly, if not to say that Elena Deladon is questionable for the Friday night game against Atlanta. I think you have to think competitive spirit. She's been here before, injured in the semifinals. History says she will play. History says she won't be 100%, but she's going to give 100%, and don't count her out. You want to add anything to that?
No, her spirits are really good. I was able to kind of chat with her briefly, and I think, I'm not thankful that it happened, but I'm thankful that there's a few days here for her to be able to hopefully rest and recover, and they've got access to some of the best gadgets and tools and things to assist her along the way. And I'm just, I think we all speak for all of us when I say that, we breathed a sigh of relief today when we heard that it wasn't anything more than a bone bruise. And I don't want to downplay how painful a bone bruise can be. They're extremely painful, but she's gonna be okay.
But that's what you can play through a bone bruise. You can't play through an ACL tear.
Exactly.
Yeah. So moving on to the second game of last night, which was I'm not even gonna lie, I wrote the Mercury off. I
think we all did.
Oh yeah, but then classic. I think I tweeted out at one point, and Taurasi just made me look so intelligent. But I was like, "Are we about to view vintage Taurasi?" She just went off.
We really should spend all of our energy when it comes to just the time we spend talking about Phoenix, about Taurasi right now, because that was incredible. It was like a switch went off, and in her mind it was like, I'm not going down. And I think even for me, I mean, had Phoenix been able to pull that out with Taurasi and what she was doing, that would have been one of the single greatest.
They should have
performances.
I'm sorry, they should have.
Well, and like not a lot of people are talking about it, but there was that extremely questionable call down the stretch from the jump ball situation on Jewell Loyd. And
there's also a questionable call. I don't remember who it was under the basket when it was clearly there should have been a foul on the shot, and instead they called it jump ball, I believe. Like Natasha Howard smacked somebody.
Yeah, I mean there was definitely. I don't remember that one as well as obviously the jump ball one, and I'm surprised there's not more people talking about it. But I think kind of the poise of Seattle in overtime and Taurasi's performance overshadowed it. But yeah, I mean that was an incredible comeback by Phoenix, and it showed. She
hit 3 threes in a row when they were down by 9.
Yeah, I mean it was stupid. And so, but so then it goes to overtime. And I think for me that the biggest changing point in that overtime period, first and foremost from Phoenix side of things, Brittany Griner cannot commit that foul. That is, I'm going to get pretty harsh here and critical, but
should that have gotten called?
I don't know. I mean, she did grab her. She grabbed her arm. They replayed it, and the announcers, they were agreeing with it, and I think I do too. It was completely unnecessary. And the coach in me is going to come out right now. That's a selfish play. You have to be smart. You have got to be. You've got to be like dotting your eyes, crossing your teeth. Like you can't commit that foul. That's your 6th foul. She's on the bench. Now they're playing the remainder of this overtime period without you. I mean, we all know the presence that Griner has on the floor, not just offensively, but obviously on the defensive end of the floor from a rebounding standpoint. So that changed the whole dynamic right there when she committed that foul, which it didn't need to happen. And then I just wanted to talk about the poise of the Seattle Storm. I mean, to have a 19-point lead.
Wait, I need to ask you before we move on to the Storm, because I completely agree with everything you just said. A lot of this blame falls on Griner, and I'm happy I wasn't in that locker room after the game, because I know there'd be a lot of cuss words and possibly some throwing of stuff, because I know if you're a fierce competitor, that's going to happen. My question for you is, there was multiple plays where it wasn't that Seattle out-hustled them for the offensive rebound and got those jump balls or whatnot. It was just an embarrassing show of defensive rebounding by the Phoenix Mercury. I understand Brittany Griner's not there, but you had multiple players who are more than capable of catching a rebound, and they had position, and the ball just bounces out of their hands, and they just can't secure the ball. The frustration level I had towards them when you have Taurasi on the team doing nothing short of, Moses-esque miracles. Splitting the sea. I mean, I personally said that Seattle Storm would sweep them if Seattle was going to sweep the Mercury. I believe I said that in the last episode. My question is, and now I want myself to be wrong, because after that showing of what Taurasi just did, I want her to bring it to Game 5. Do you think the Mercury can push it before we get on to Seattle? Do you think they can push it and pull a few wins off and make this a series again, or is it done?
My initial reaction is no. I feel like Now, I'm gonna counteract myself here. My initial reaction is no. What happened last night was completely devastating. I mean, to have that, and then it actually happened. The first two games where they kind of made a run at the end, and Seattle, always makes the comment of, hey, as long as you're playing Phoenix, they're never out of it. I'm not sitting here and saying that Taurasi's not going to bring it, because she's one of the greatest competitors in the world, in any sport. So I feel like she will. I think the thing that Phoenix has going for them is obviously being back home, is good, and they get a couple days rest, which I think is much needed for them. This is a team that's played 6 games in 12 days, so they do have probably a lot of exhaustion that they're battling right now, and so just to even have an extra day to rest is big. I genuinely question the mentality of some of the other players kind of leading into, game 3. Are you going to be mentally tough enough to not make certain errors and to rebound the basketball, to go get this thing? Or are you going to kind of, I don't want to necessarily say roll over, but you know what I'm saying? Like Taurasi, like you said, last night was not going to be denied. She was going to do anything and everything she could to win that game. And it felt like maybe there were some others that weren't on that same page. And so I see a Phoenix team that, to me, it kind of feels like, are they all on the same page right now? They're struggling. There's some frustrations. They're not hitting shots. They're on the road. They're not getting calls. How they go home and respond to everything that just transpired up in Seattle, this is a tough situation for them to be in. So my initial reaction is no. I have a feeling Seattle will sweep it. Best case scenario, Phoenix will maybe get one at home. But that's kind of that would be my prediction right now.
My initial reaction is to agree with you. I would love to see some home cook wins. I would love to see Taurasi pull it out, because in all honesty, call me sentimental, the season she's been having has been insane. There was a lot of talk about it early in the season. I think it's kind of fallen off when people started to focus on the whole A'ja Wilson thing, the whole Breanna Stewart thing. There's a lot of other stories, and as we've talked about many times on the Insider and on this podcast, the lack of mainstream or media coverage causes that when you read these stories, for the most part, you're only reading about like 4 players, and you kind of get your tunnel vision on when it comes to that. I think it's going to be tough for them to pull it out. I personally hope I'm wrong. I would love to see Taurasi hit 4 threes in a row to send a game to overtime in game 5. And yeah, I personally, I was kind of, I'm hyped on the Bonner train. I didn't think she really showed up in the 4th as much as I would have liked to see. There's a few moments where she had sparks, but she was never able to. Oh, that offensive foul on her. Rachel, do you remember that call?
Yeah.
Thoughts? I was pissed off. I don't think I based on the home cook and the refs were given all night. I get why they called it, but I don't call that at that point. Maybe I'm just too much of let them play. What are your thoughts?
I agree with the call. I do think it was, her feet were set. You go back, you look at it. To me, this is what I was seeing. But no, I'm kind of with you. There is kind of like an unsung thought of hey, at that point in the game, do you call that when it's kind of questionable? But I guess at the end of the day, for me, it probably was the right call. If we're just talking, pure basketball 101 calls, I feel like that was probably the right call. I hated that they called it. It really, that was a very deflating moment as well. All right, let's move on to Seattle now. I just have a couple thoughts, just generally going over them. First and foremost, can we just talk about how dominant they are? Just kind of across the board, the way they're playing right now. But what I thought was interesting, to have a team that's playing at home, you're up 1-0, you're getting ready to go up 2-0, you're up 19, and Taurasi is doing what she's doing, right? She like you said, Moses-esque type of miracles happening on the floor. They cut the lead, they send it to overtime. Dan Hughes kind of mentioned it in the press conference after how difficult that is for a team when you've given up a 19-point lead. You've got someone like Taurasi doing what she's doing, elevating her game to that level, and you have not a ton of momentum, and you're kind of sitting there shell-shocked as to what transpired. To be able to hit that reset button in overtime and to be mentally tough enough to fight through that adversity and the togetherness that involves, that is one of the most difficult things a team can do. 9 times out of 10, your basic team in the country, from the grassroots level to the professional level, that is an extremely devastating situation to be in for a team like the Seattle Storm. And just the way that they responded, the way they stuck together. And it all started with, obviously, the leadership of Sue Bird and kind of what they said, hitting that reset button in that overtime period. And Dan Hughes was blown away by just the poise they showed and the way they were able to stay composed in that moment and come back and win. And I just wanted to echo it too, because I was just completely blown away, not just with how talented they are and how well they're playing as a unit right now, but just how well they were able to respond. There were some key moments in that fourth quarter where, do you remember the series where they took a shot, they got an offensive rebound, and they're trying to tip it in. Jewel Lloyd's tipping it in. They get another offensive rebound. They put it back in. In that moment right there, you get that O-board. You've got to kick it out. You've got to run some clock. You've got to understand time and score in those scenarios. So we did see kind of some rookie mistakes, some younger player type of mistakes down the stretch where the game wasn't played tremendously smart. They almost felt like at points where they almost kind of trying to give it away. So to respond to kind of some of those mistakes that they kind of committed in that fourth quarter and come back and win it, I was just I'm very impressed with Seattle. And it seems to me right now, I don't know. I don't know that anyone can beat them. How do you feel about it?
I'm very torn, because on the one hand, part of me, the angry side of me is dude, they blew it. Yes, they pulled it out, and that's great, but there were so many times that honestly I was disappointed in not Sue Bird, because at times it kind of felt like everybody had that rookie moment, and Sue Bird was kind of running around guys, come on. You're kind of giving into that. And honestly, I was a little bit disappointed in Natasha Howard. She played an amazing game. Late in the game, look, there's many things about her that have made this team so good. One of the things that I think is the most underrated, or maybe it's not underrated, but the fact that she has that playoff, that championship, that big game experience, I did not see her play like she had that experience at times late in the game last night. When Taurasi was doing Taurasi things, it's easy for players to put their hands on their hips, take a breather, and kind of look like, what can I do? She's playing ridiculous. But you don't see that from the greats like Sue Bird. You don't see that from the greats like Diana Taurasi. So I was hoping to see a little bit more fight from Natasha Howard in that sense. But other than that, yeah, look, the Mercury have a unique ability that if they're playing at their best, I don't think we've seen the best from Brittany Griner. And their three-point shooting was horrible last night. So I think if they're playing at their best, this is a team that can give Seattle a run for their money. But as we're seeing, the window is closing and closing. And do I think that, Washington or Atlanta has that same ability? I don't know. I honestly don't know. They're two very different style teams, and maybe I'm looking too far ahead. But I'm trying to think ahead and see what might happen and which team has the better ability to dethrone them. Because I want some 5-game series. I don't want the finals done in 3. I don't want the finals done in 4. I want it best of 5. And maybe that's me being selfish, wanting to prolong the season. What do you think?
Yeah, of course, I think we all do. None of us kind of want this to come to an end, but I'm just enjoying the moment right now, because these two matchups right now in the midst of these semifinals and the storylines kind of surrounding so much of it. We're in a moment in time right now that as a women's basketball fan, as a WNBA fan, I'm just trying to soak in every moment of it, because just being able to see Taurasi and Bird out there together and playing at the level that they're playing at, and all 4 of these great teams competing at this level. This is what it's about. So I pray that everything goes to 5 games and we get as much as possible, because I'm loving every second of it. Do you want to do the lottery and then be done?
I'm a fucking idiot, and I keep pressing the mute button and then forgetting to unpress it, and then I keep talking and then realize I'm an idiot.
I said I'm soaking in every minute of it.
Rachel, let's talk about the lottery. I couldn't agree with you more. How lucky can you get? That laugh that Bill Laimbeer had was absurd. But I mean, talk about two ends of the coin. Luck for Aces. I mean, they better be a playoff team next year. They better. Oh, I think saying a ring contention is a little bit big and haughty, but definitely in the middle of the pack. I expect from them. Indy got screwed. Liberty defy odds, and Chicago.
Amber Stocks at Chicago. She's like, you know what? Whatever. I'm going to roll with whatever. She's not going to be fazed by a whole lot. She did just fine with her number 4 draft pick, and having another number 4 pick with a deep draft, and as fluid as a draft as this is probably going to shake up to be. She's not too worried about it. I do feel bad for Indiana. I don't know if any of you saw Tamika Catching's reaction to it online last night, but
she's not happy.
Just to see, someone like her being as vocal as she was, I mean, just speaks volumes. And a number of the Fever players were kind of reacting like that. So I feel bad for Indiana, but at the same time, when you step back and you look at the big picture of what this draft could be, and we're just now kind of starting to scratch the surface of even talking about it. I think all 4 teams are going to be fine, but happy for the Liberty. I think they needed a little bit of good news on their plate. I mean Las Vegas, and then you throw in the forfeit, and you throw in that actually worked in their favor when it comes to this, and it's their 3rd number 1 pick. I mean we've been saying all along there is something brewing in the water over there in Las Vegas. And Bill Laimbeer.
Well, answer me this, Rachel. Vopel had a tweet that was basically like, you can punish, or should the forfeit be? She brought up the idea of, you forfeit and you get the number 1 pick. Should you really be rewarded or be able to do that? What are your thoughts on that aspect of it?
When I first read it, it definitely made me think, because here's the way this exact scenario kind of played out. The fact that they forfeited a game, they barely missed it. Now here you are, but you follow the draft guidelines in terms of combined records for the last 2 years, and it is what it is. So I mean, I don't know. But it definitely made me think. And there is a part of you that kind of sits here and you're like, man, that doesn't seem fair. But if we're calling it a lottery, it is a lottery, and it is how things kind of shake up. And I know people are out there saying it's rigged and all these things, and I think that's obviously a slippery slope to go down. I don't even like to think about those things, but I mean, I think the laugh by Bill Laimbeer once that news first broke, he sounded like a kid like on Christmas morning. He was almost in complete shock himself, because I don't think he even remotely anticipated that they would even have a shot at that.
Yeah, I agree. It was ridiculous. It was just, yeah. I mean, it was, yeah. And then, I mean, it is what it is. But I was just first. Oh, and I got to give a shout out to ESPN. Shout out to Kurt Miller. Shout out to whoever that guy was, and the WNBA for finally. Like, look, I criticize when they do stupid stuff, but I compliment when they do great stuff, and that was great. Kurt had some great breakdowns during the game. And I hope they continue the streak of bringing WNBA coaches on so that they can actually have people who know the league, who know the game, talking about it, versus these slack jog yokels just, coming in and talking about it because they have a big name or they know basketball. Know the league before you start talking about the league.
Well, it definitely gave great insight. And I mean, how I feel about Kurt Miller. He is brilliant of a basketball mind that's out there. And so to sit there and to have him on there and hear his analysis is people don't understand maybe all the time how fortunate we are to be able to listen to that. So I echo you on that. Get Kurt Miller on there as much as possible. Hopefully they're still playing come this time next year, but get Kurt Miller, for our sake on there as much as possible, so we get a chance to, like I said, just listen to it and even learn ourselves.
This has been an amazing episode. I'm Aryeh Schwartz. That was Rachel Galligan breaking down Game 2 of the WNBA semis. Every week, every episode, important topics. Listen up.